Do the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you everyone for being here and those watching. Mayor's report, short as usual. I hope everybody gets to get out and enjoy a little bit of the Oktoberfest. I was privileged with officially kicking off the Oktoberfest with tapping the keg. It's something they do in Germany, and we decided we're going to try that here, and hopefully we can expand on it each year. I think it was a success for the first time. We had a lot of fun doing it. We did it at the brewery and had a good crowd, and so I think that was successful. I just wanted to put a little scuttlebutt. I want people to be aware that with all the hurricanes in Florida and North Carolina that we sent a two-man crew. We have a mutual aid agreement across the United States with other utility companies that we sent a crew to Florida to help with the recovery efforts. They were there, and then they got transferred to North Carolina with all the devastation up there. They were there a week. And then now the second storm has hit. We also sent a crew to, I think they went to the Orlando area to do the same thing, and they're on their way back now. But just so people understand why we're doing that, it's a mutual aid agreement. So in other words, if unfortunately, we would be unfortunate to have a tornado here and wipe out half of our infrastructure, these other utility companies would come in and support us. So this is why we do this. We haven't done this for 5 years, but I just wanted everybody to understand why we send our people out of town, and this is why. So, you know, we scratch their back, and hopefully down the road, if something happens, they'll scratch ours. The other thing, our landmarks committee, we are down 2 people. If anybody, landmarks we're down 2, and the utility board, we are down 1 person. So if anybody out there that would be interested in filling one of the positions, it's a monthly meeting with the landmarks, UAB. That's
It's quarterly.
quarterly meeting, so it's not like every week or something, but we would really like somebody to step up and fill that void for us if at all possible. That's all I have. We'll move to city administrator.
Kelly Beats from MIRMA is here. He's with our risk management group, and I think you all probably know him, and he's coming bearing good news.
Yes. In case I don't recognize everyone, I bet you don't know what MIRMA stands for. Dolores was on our board for a long time. MIRMA is Missouri Intergovernmental Risk Management Association. So we go with an acronym of MIRMA because that's a lot of words. It was formed in the early 80s, and Herman was one of the founding members. Am I correct?
Yes.
Yep.
Correct.
Yep. One of the founding members. And through that years of history, we'd be able to track losses and trends. And since we're just made up of cities and municipalities, similar risks. And to address those risks or losses that we've seen throughout the years, either work comp, property, or liability, we developed a risk grant program to address those areas that all towns face that are higher risks that we see. And so we developed a risk grant program, and that's why I'm here tonight. We had submissions from the police department and the
Water and sewer department.
water and sewer department. Okay. So you got 2 items. First one, police department's got 5 body cams. We're giving back to the city $1,406. Body cams are a great tool, great liability tool, as well as a little bit of officer safety on the work comp side. Sewer cameras, great liability tool, and also help prevent any future problems and headaches that come that way. We're giving back $6,862 for a new sewer camera, for a total of $8,268. So,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
I also want to thank everyone in Herman, all departments, every employee. We do an annual evaluation every year. Dolores, I shouldn't say this, she might get mad at me, but every year you are 99%.
Right.
Every year, and I can't remember what it is. But anyway, we got it they're 100% now, and they have been for 10 years or whatever. So it's a lot of work, it's a lot of effort. It's a best practices standard. It covers, HR policies to playground safety to safety training, and kind of encompasses everything. You guys are at 100%, and thank you for all the hard work to everyone.
And on the money we're receiving, don't you have a pool of money that you put in there and then everybody applies, or the cities apply for it?
Yep.
And then it's actually you pick them out, it's not everybody who applies gets the.
What we've done is, since throughout the year's history, we've picked out the kind of the higher risk items: liability, sewer camera, police. So we kind of a hierarchy, here's the category 1s, category 2s, and if there's money left over, categories 3s. I've got 45 towns I go to, and this year I'm giving out 25 awards. So not all towns, you don't always submit every year, so it kind of evens itself out throughout. I think we're at over 100 members now.
That's what Kelly said,
It's a lot.
yeah. It is, it's cool though.
Yeah.
Starting from what did we have, maybe 15, do we?
Well, I think it was 9 whenever
Yeah,
Herman
something like
started
that.
with St. Joe and Columbia and Hannibal Utilities, and Macon Utilities. Yep. That was a great town to work with. Love coming to Herman. Everyone's super wonderful, all the department heads. So a lot of history here. I've been coming here for 20 years probably. I've even been yelled at by Dolores. So.
And we thank you so much. We appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Yeah, I want to thank the police department. They just came to a conference this past week, and Chief gave a little speech on some stuff, and it was a great turnout. I'm supposed to give a special thank you to the chief. So
Awesome. Chief, why don't you jump up here and receive the award and get your picture taken?
I may make Dolores take a picture, send it to Matt.
Thank you, Kelly.
Thanks,
We appreciate
Sarah.
it so much. Okay, awesome. I have just a couple other things here. Wanted to note that the sales tax deposit came in, and it is 4% over year to date over last year, so that's holding pretty well. Moseal, the contractors who did our summer paving project, we're finally here today to meet again with our engineer Travis to review the items that they needed to complete that were on their contract, and a few of those little add-ons. So they will be actually doing that work on Wednesday, and then that final change order that we've been discussing will be forthcoming. Let's look at the porch rendering there on your desk. So this is from the architect from Archer Elgin. So the objective is to get rid of that heavy concrete paneled porch and pillars that are so damaged and sagging. So you can see where basically that the whole thing comes down, and there'll be just that flat portion with a lap siding on it, and then a much smaller, lightweight canopy. Now that first canopy there on the front page is only 6 by 10. So I suggested they provide us a second one, giving more coverage for from the sun, from the rain. The second one is 9 by 21. Now they don't have a cost differential for us yet. This was again just an architect's rendering. They'll rework the gutter just a little bit over there on the left and run it underground. Of course, do some new landscaping. The unfortunate thing is that I've been told the tree right out here in front will be in the way of the demo because it'll require a crane to get in here and get the big concrete slabs out. I'm told by Jesse, our arborist, that that's a junk tree. And then we can plant a new one. But anyway, I think it gives it a much more a modern look for sure, and much safer. This is still open to suggestions and input. Nothing's engraved in stone, so if you have suggestions, I can take those to the architect.
The only question I have is what are they gonna do with the rest of the building that's sinking on the other side, where the cracks are getting larger?
Well, that'll be, so I talked to Travis, and he said that we should have the foundation repair company come in between the demo and the rebuild of the front porch.
Is this gonna, any of this work gonna actually cover the roof? Is roof gonna be altered at all, or?
So just a little bit, you can see back here, they talk about how they're gonna put that product over the top of it. But no, the roof, the entire roof will be probably another subject for within the next 5 years, we probably need to do with the roof.
That's what I was asking.
Yeah.
Actually, I think the smaller one looks better and a little more modern.
It does look better, but again, it provides you less coverage from sun and rain. You know, the other one would allow us, again, I do like the small one actually better, but the looks, but the larger one, we could actually get a bench under cover, and it's a little bit
Is that
deeper.
needed,
It's,
larger? Do you?
I don't think it's needed, just people might utilize the bench a little more if it's under cover. So no, I don't, it's totally subjective.
Of course, in the future, we could probably get the tree commission, put another tree on.
I bet they would, they'd be happy to, right? So yeah, if you guys wanna, you can mull that over, if you're not ready to, like I said, the size of that awning, those were just 2 suggestions, it can be any size.
I think they both look spiffy.
And if we want to, the white lettering, we could actually, that's the architect suggesting we put a sign at the top with the tree gone, you could see it better, but we don't have to do that, but we could like light it up or something if we wanted to. You know, the bells and whistles.
I do kind of like the idea.
With a nice little facelift.
Besides the very old street sign, you really, there's no signage that says City Hall.
Do you need us to vote on this tonight, or?
If you all have opinions tonight, I will take them. If you need more time to think about it, it's totally up to you.
I think the proof is in the, how much the estimates will come back as, but
I don't know, we have that construction estimate, which was about $52,000, but that was not, they didn't have specific materials or anything.
The 52,000 was for what?
It was just a rough estimate
For just demo
and rebuild.
and rebuild?
I'm happy with either one, honestly.
Any strong opinions?
I doubt the extra 6 feet is gonna,
Make or break us, yeah.
is gonna cause the price to go up that much more.
So you're in favor of the bigger, Jim?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think the 9 by 21
Yeah.
foot awning adds a little bit more class and
You
helps
like
shade.
and you like the smaller?
I like the small.
Dolores, which one do you prefer?
Oh, it doesn't make any difference to me.
Non-committal.
I just, I know the smaller would, I don't know, I think the smaller would be sufficient,
Oh, it's up to you.
but that's just my opinion.
So 2 and 2? I have to kind of agree with Trish that the larger, just put the park bench out there, a little bit of shade. If it's raining, I don't think the cost would be that much more. I would prefer the little bit wider one myself. So,
The mayor has spoken, okay.
Throw the monkey on my back.
Very good. I appreciate your input on that. Well, I'm glad that's finally moving a little bit more. I think that's all I have now.
Everything we have, no public comments, correct? Correct. We will move on to old business. We're going to discuss the draft rental inspection. You have that in your book. Open for discussion.
Yeah, so this is my first stab at something, and Mike spoke about the New Haven ordinance. So there's some of this came from there. Some of this was borrowed from Washington, some from Augusta, some just from my own drafting. And so it's your ordinance, it's, you know, whatever we want it. But New Haven's was more occupancy permit for any change of occupancy. It's my understanding that you guys were, at least to start, more interested in just doing the inspections and permits for the long-term rental properties. And so if that's what you're gonna do, we have to define what a long-term rental property is. At the bottom of page 1, there's, again, an attempt, I think, that would work, of long-term rental property. You may wonder why I chose 27 days. Because typically if somebody's doing a long-term rental, there'll be a lease. But if there's not a lease, somebody's just there paying rent, they're month to month. And the landlord can terminate upon giving any calendar month's notice to the tenant. And the shortest month of the year is February with 28 days. And so that's how I chose 27, to cover in case somebody has a rental for February. So any comments, questions? I understand Mike is not available to be here tonight, and so he may have some thoughts, or you may have questions for him, but this is a start.
Somewhere along the line, I thought I remembered in the short-term rental is those that rent out less than 31 days. So would this 27 be kind of falling back for the short term also?
Tricia just handed me a copy of the definition of transient guests, any person who rents or occupies a guest room for a period of less than 31 days. I don't think we have a term in our definitions, short-term rental, quote unquote, that's either bed and breakfast inn, bed and breakfast home, hotel, motel, boarding house, but
Yeah, I don't know
We
if it
could-
affects it or not.
yeah, we could fix this or make this a less than 28 days to make a jive with this.
Section 530.140, set for Part F, talks about private inspections can be used. Is this in lieu of Michael Fleece or whoever our building inspector at the time might be?
That's what it contemplates, yeah, and that's straight out of New Haven's, and that can easily be cut, in my opinion, if you guys aren't comfortable with that. Try to think of a situation if Mike is on vacation for 2 weeks, or
That's what I'm-
he's ill and he's laid up
Yeah.
for a month or something like that.
He's
and
only
people-
one person.
People need, yeah, right. We probably ought to have the ability to go ahead and contract out that inspection.
Yeah, and I was just making sure that's what that actually read as.
So if a private inspector would come in and do it, say Mike was not available, I think what the private inspector would turn in, Mike would have to approve it before we accepted it.
Well, I think what this contemplates is that as long as they have the credentials and as long as they use the city forms, it's good.
Yeah, you
Again,
might not be
in the
around
spirit of
tomorrow.
not holding up a landlord and a tenant who wants the tenant to move in Wednesday, you know, they want the inspection tomorrow and Mike's not
Under section 530, 130, the last part where you say permit upon any change in occupancy of any long-term rental property, I thought it was only going to be on a yearly basis, and if someone lives in an apartment for 6 months and moves, I didn't think they had to have a re-inspection. I thought they were going to still hold that inspection okay.
At the very end of that section, we could add a line or something in parentheses or something subject to the building inspector's discretionary ability to waive the permit requirements pursuant to 530-140A. So I think what you're talking about is in the very next paragraph.
Yeah.
It can be waived if found the structure unit has at least 1 year history of compliance. At the discretion of the building inspector. It may be somebody's only been there for 2 months, but it's so notorious he thinks it should be inspected again, but at least it's up to him.
And something else I wrote down here in section F, the 530-140, where it says the city shall verify, should that be the building inspector? And that's getting back to private inspector.
The city shall verify all inspection forms submitted by such inspectors. Well, and that goes to a question Doris, I think, emailed, probably everybody was on it, is there's a building inspector. That term is defined, and I think we all understand that to be Mike. And then there's, let's see, what was the question you had,
It was
Doris?
the chief administrative officer, I think, something like that.
Yeah.
I don't have it with me.
The building inspector would be under the zoning and building czar, so to speak, who is Tricia. I would say, like in that section that you said, 530-140F, maybe city administrator shall verify all inspection forms. Because who's the city? Does it need to come before you guys on a motion? I don't think so. It's not.
Are you talking about the private inspection or all inspections?
Well, here in particular, we're just talking about the private
Private,
ones.
okay, that's what I thought. I wasn't sure.
Mike is probably gonna have a system, but then you get somebody new or somebody just on a one-time basis we hire because Mike's not available for some reason, and they submit some kind of form. I think somebody, and probably Tricia, should be able to say, this isn't kosher or this isn't sufficient. You need to fill these lines out or tell him or her what to do.
I know in section 530-160, part A, it's talking about the city clerk shall receive all occupancy permit applications. I mean, would that be part of the clerk's? And I would, which is underneath the administrator.
Right. When I read the code, and I paused on that too, when I see city clerk, what I'm really thinking of is anybody in that office. The city clerk or somebody from the city clerk's office who happens to be sitting there at the desk. Could, somebody walks in, they need an inspection, they'll have an application right there for anybody that walks in from 8 to 5 is what I was thinking.
Okay.
But wouldn't, if you get a private inspector to come in and look at the building, wouldn't he first have to come to the city office and
Get the
say,
right
hey, I'm
forms.
John Smith and I'm here to do a private inspection because I was hired?
Yeah, I almost wonder if that paragraph should have something like with prior city approval or something to use the private.
I think it kind of depends on what Michael is using.
Well, I think one approach you could take is if Michael is out for a week and we have one that needs to be done right away, Tricia can just go out and hire somebody. And if they meet, their BOCA approved and she emails them the forms that we have, that could be it. That's all you do. Another thing you could do, I suppose, is if this board really wants to have their fingers in this pie, we could pass a motion to approve private inspectors A, B, and C as pre-approved city private inspectors, to step in if Mike's ever unavailable. Like courts do that with process servers a lot. It's really whatever you guys want.
If Mike is using BOCA, rules, then if every building inspector, whether it be private or working for a public entity, if they're all using the same code, it shouldn't really matter. It's not like the city of Herman has something off the wall compared to any other, municipality.
They change over from municipality.
Well, but the important thing is they'd have to have this BOCA certification. And we might have building codes that are different than New Haven's slightly, we all adopt the International Property Maintenance Code, the International Building Code and all that. It's probably not here. What you said was probably right.
I think it just depends on what Mike is planning on using. How generic is it? Because what we're trying to do is protect long-term renters.
When Mike's here, what days out of the week? Or does it vary?
He's here every day for a few hours.
And Mike may be able to compose a list of people that he's worked with in the past, of private inspectors. And then if something comes up and he's gone, well, we can get a hold of Billy the Kid to come do the inspection.
Yeah, we'll go on his recommendation of people that he knows that have trust and have their contact information, and that way, if he's unavailable, this is what we call move forward and pretty simple.
Off of that subject, I had a note here on section 53160 involves letter B and C. My way I'm reading it, C is in conflict with B. B says that shall not be occupied until deficiencies are corrected. C says the building inspector finds the structure does not comply with code, he or she shall issue an occupancy permit.
C says finds that the structure does comply with the code, right? That's what I...
Does not meet the requirements of the code.
Oh, and B.
If the building inspector
B.
finds that the long-term rental does not meet the requirements of the code, he shall notify the applicant of the deficiencies and inform them the property shall not be occupied until the deficiencies are corrected.
Then in C,
But if the building inspector finds the structure does comply with the code, then they get their occupancy. Now, one thing that was in New Haven that I didn't carry over to here that I guess you could consider is it provided a sort of a, and Mike, this might be a good Mike question, sort of a temporary permit or hardship permit. Like I said, somebody's moving in on Wednesday and they're moving here from Iowa and they really need a place to move into, but it technically won't comply with the code and he really shouldn't issue a permanent occupancy permit. But there are no real safety issues like a bathroom vent that daylights to the outside or vents to the outside, something like that. Their code says that he can issue a temporary permit and then give the property owner 60 days to fix whatever that little thing is, and then they get their permanent one. Like I said, that's probably my question. You have a lot more examples than I do. Correct. And that's why I italicized that under 530-140.
Yeah, I certainly, I mean, I know the foundation of this is to protect citizens of Herman. But then again, we also have an issue with I don't want to put up any roadblocks, for someone to be able to rent a place in town because Mike's out of town or something, if it's something serious, or like I said, if it's a bad event, okay, let's get them in there and we can figure that
If
out.
the deck stairs are loose and gonna fall off versus, and then a GFI in the bathroom, is that serious, or can you issue a temporary permit if they don't have one of those, if they promise to get one in 20 days? That's probably a Mike call. That's probably a more serious one,
Right.
frankly. So, I don't even know if you want to go there. Maybe you would have some
I have
opinion on that.
2 more questions. 530-160, Section E. The legalese is throwing me off. Can you kind of explain that a little bit?
The city inspects. The city issues an occupancy permit. And then a month later, the rental unit burns down because of some faulty wiring or a smoke detector that didn't work or something like that.
Okay.
This is saying that just by virtue of the city inspecting, that doesn't put us on the hook as warranting or providing any kind of warranty to the tenant that it's all safe and nothing bad is gonna happen to you if you rent this place. That's all still between the tenant and the landlord.
Okay, that makes sense. And then 530-170, is that necessary to have the occupancy permit become invalid if someone hasn't been in there for 120 days? Since we have the 1 year where if it's been inspected, you're good, we don't have to get it again. If it's within that 1 year time frame, does the occupancy permit need to have an expiration date on it?
I really don't.
New Haven, do they have one, Dave?
Yeah, that's where this came from. That, again, could be a Mike question. He might think of a scenario that I can't think of.
Fair enough.
Where if it's unoccupied for 4 months, I don't know, they say cars and houses and I guess apartments, nothing's worse for them than being unoccupied, and things tend to go to pot. Maybe, I don't know, that might be a Mike question.
Yeah, that's my question. And then Trish, do you know, is the $100 fee, is that per Mike's recommendation?
I think, didn't he say like 40? I don't know, I'd have to check.
That was borrowed probably from Washington. Again, that's entirely up to you guys, whatever you think. And being the city's legal representative and advocating for the city, I always go on the high side of things like that. I think.
What do we have on record? I know Mike asked that we should increase those because what we had been charging didn't cover its costs. So if he goes to where he's issued a building permit and he goes in to checks it, what did we charge for that? $40?
We raised that to,
Like a reinspection would be like $25.
but the initial one is it 40?
I think it's,
I think it's 50, and then there's, for like most work, it's 50. And then there's certain things that go by square footage for a commercial or residential multiplier.
So we kind of use that as the same dollar amount here.
because in my opinion, a building permit is an elective thing for a property owner to want to upgrade or expand their property. This is something that we're contemplating requirement of landlords. I don't want the city to be profiting off the inspection fee.
Because if they had one, like you said, they already had one, paid the $100, and now somebody moves out 4.5 months later, have to pay it again.
Mhm.
No,
Well,
Likely not, because the
because.
inspector
the
has
year-
the
it
ability
has
to waive the inspection.
Every year, yeah, he should.
Yeah.
I would think he would waive that. I don't think. he
Well, that's what I think Ash
talking.
was asking is, if it comes empty and it's not reoccupied within 120 days, that inspection becomes null and void.
the
Oh, that's a
occupancy
different-
permit
that's
does,
a
not a
different-
building inspection, but.
Well, if this whole process start to finish, from form providing to hopping in his truck and driving wherever to doing the inspection to filling out the tank, it takes 3 hours of Mike's time. If it's $50, that's only $16.67 an hour. You know, everything's more expensive these days.
So he said excuse me, I didn't mean to interrupt. He said the initial inspection will probably take likely what you're talking about, but he said the subsequent ones get down to about a half an hour.
Sure. I think that's another Mike question.
Yeah, that's fine.
I have a couple marks here for Mike questions.
And so next meeting, just leave it under, put it under old business for the next meeting.
Yeah, and discuss with Mike again. There is one thing that jumped out to Corey and I both. Right on the first page today for 530-110. The last sentence of that first paragraph, property maintenance code. I did ask Mike about that, just because we don't technically have a property maintenance code. Didn't know if that verbiage would confuse people, if we could reword it, or, I asked him about that, and he said, even though we don't have a technical property maintenance code, we still follow the IBC code, and he read off a whole bunch of three-letter things to me, that he still has teeth to enforce some of these exterior property maintenance things that are on that checklist, but just didn't know if that verbiage would be confusing or not.
Is there a separate property maintenance code, period?
There is
Yeah.
one that the city hasn't adopted, but, right?
No.
But here's a twist. Our landmarks committee codes for the historic district, those might be considered property maintenance codes. If you've got a landlord that owns a building in a historic district and there's a change of occupancy and Mike goes to inspect and he finds that something about the exterior of the property did not get a certificate of appropriateness and it doesn't meet our code, should he flag that? Is this gonna be our way to get at people for violating our decor laws in the historic district?
I think we had put that in the job description of the ordinance enforcement officer to follow up on certificates of appropriateness. I think is where we've got that covered presently.
I don't think that's something you hold up an occupancy permit for, but it could certainly be something that he refers to landmarks to.
I think it can be said. I don't
Yeah.
think that is in the spirit of.
If the
long-term
shutters are the
rental.
wrong color. Yeah.
Right. Sorry, you can't live here because
Yeah, I agree.
On that same section, I had a note here.
But it does get his eyes on properties more to look out for
Exactly.
some of this stuff.
Yeah.
I had jotted down that maybe we need to update our nuisance ordinance, but should we put something in there since this is rental property as far as yard upkeep? Grass to a certain height and not storage of motorized vehicle parts, whether it be cars, riding lawnmowers, tractors.
So
I
I
thought it
think
was covered.
some of that is covered. If we model our checklist after New Haven's, and this is what Mike said he liked and didn't see a lot of changes, there's exterior debris, there was
Are those items covered in their ordinance? Or is that?
That part of it, when we looked at nuisance,
That's a
it
good
just
point.
says
Filling out,
debris,
is that
there's
just
no
something they
description
came up
of
with?
what debris.
I'm not
certain.
a wrong term.
No,
And is it?
the checklist is not in their ordinance. That's just a list that they came up with to basically address 530-110, to provide for the health, safety, and welfare of the residents at a minimum to blah, 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 blah. So I think the city has some discretion. if the grass hasn't been mowed for 2 weeks versus if the grass is 2 feet tall. We can't really codify that. And I think Mike can withhold a permit to the landlord until he mows the grass. Or gets all the junk out of the yard, or
Like I said, in our,
or you got a tree limb that's just barely hanging on right over the sidewalk, just anything like that. I think he's got the flexibility to require they fix.
Okay, but everything that you have listed in 530, 110, that can be added, there can be items added
Oh, sure.
to the list, correct? Because they have 2 pages, I think, in New Haven.
Well, and where the biggest lists are in the property, in the building code and in the electric code, and then that's where all the details are as far as what they're inspecting for. And I think that list is actually just a consolidation of the enormous list of things that are in the building codes that they're really looking for. Something just easy to go through and check lines for.
And then I have one other question. I think at the one, I don't remember, a couple meetings ago when we were given this information, you had dangerous buildings, the city code for dangerous buildings attached to it. Is there any reason why the building inspector wouldn't be the person declaring a building dangerous? Wouldn't he have more input in knowing whether a building is a dangerous building?
You asked me. I didn't provide anything at the last meeting. I
Well, we
provided
did.
that, right?
We did, it's
Or,
section 520 525.
right?
And I think it says the city administrator is classified or shall be the building commissioner. And that means that she'll go inspect the buildings and,
But doesn't it say right below that the city administrator or anybody basically that she appoints can be that?
I didn't read that anywhere.
The part she was referring to.
I guess my concern is if you have somebody who has the knowledge of knowing whether a building is
Well,
to be demolished. or not.
525-050, building inspector. All city police officers and all other city employees so designated by the mayor shall be building inspectors within the meaning of this chapter. 525-060, duties of building inspector. So the building inspector is the building inspector, like what you're talking about. And then there's a building commissioner who has the power to supervise inspections, tell the inspector where to go inspect, issue the you must tear down the building order. There's all the administrative stuff is for the building commissioner.
Yeah, the only time that we've done that, something like that since I've been here, was that old school building on West 5th Street. And at that time, you had Mark Wallace and Lee Riegel signing all those documents. Yeah.
So that the entire, all of 525 has these other things in it. It says who the building inspector is. Or if a police officer is just patrolling and they see a house that has 2-foot-high grass and weeds and snakes and car parts sitting in it, and that they could report to the building commissioner that they saw that, and then the building commissioner could go ahead and issue the warnings and the notices.
I just don't want anybody to be able to be in, sitting in court and they're saying you're not certified, or where's your certification to be able to tell us that this building is derelict.
But
That's what I was trying to get at.
We wouldn't get that far without Mike definitely doing it. You know, the weeds and trash and debris is one thing. If we send a notice to someone to come to a show cause hearing to show cause why their dangerous building shouldn't be torn down, Mike would be our star witness for sure.
Okay, just trying to cover all bases.
And, you know, for that matter, what I went back and forth on a little bit is just where these code sections belong. Do they belong in 525 under dangerous buildings? And I didn't think so. I thought they fit better under 530
Yeah.
building codes.
Right. Makes sense.
Any other questions?
Any violations of this would be classified as a misdemeanor, and if the tenant didn't clean it up, could we come back after the property owner?
Well, the tenant shouldn't even be a tenant or start residing there until they get a permit.
It would be the property owner that you would be going after, not the tenant, I think.
The property owner could get with the tenant, say, you gotta get this cleaned up.
That's the way
Unless
it-
it's
that's the way it should work, I would believe.
No, it should all be done before they even.
Right.
Before
But
they
it
even-
That's the
Before they
right
even
owner,
move
that's
in.
what I'm saying.
Yeah, but if it deteriorates, say, you got long-term renters there a year, and this starts building
Or
up.
3 years.
Then if we would notify the tenant and the owner?
You notify the.
Well, how do we know that it's
property
even
owner.
deteriorated? If a tenant moves in on November 1st of 2024, and then they're there for 2 years, and in 2026, what? If it's a dangerous building or a nuisance or tall grass or the building's falling down or something like that, then we can get at the owner through the dangerous building code. But we're not gonna know if smoke detectors don't work or if they don't have a carbon monoxide detector.
But the
or if-
front porch is falling off or something, then we have a visible sign of that. But I'm sure in here included too.
But we don't have the right to inspect until there is a change in possession of the property.
And I'm sure Mike would look at too, the points of egress and ingress with the windows painted shut or all that. Cause I know there's homes here where that's happened.
I thought it was supposed to be inspected every year. It was supposed to be inspected. The rentals. So somebody can live there 5 years and really have a lot of bad things?
Change of possession. In Washington, they've got these, and it's not just rentals, it's any occupancy. You need an occupancy permit. My mom and dad lived in their house for 53 years, so the city didn't,
Right.
you know, the
And
city
so-
inspector didn't set foot in that house for 53 years until they moved out. And then you go in and ding it for everything. Yeah, the way it's written here, it's just upon change of possession.
And one last thing, I know when Mike did present this, he talked about the city of New Haven wouldn't transfer utilities until an occupancy permit was obtained. Are we thinking about going down that road as well?
Well, the question that you're answering with that is, how do you know there's been a change in possession? How does the city know?
All right.
And yeah, and in Washington too, I know, because I asked them when mom and dad didn't live in the house anymore, is they just have to pay extra attention to the utility bills, and just word of mouth and just knowing what's going on. Now, however, I think we have landlords in Herman, and we might want to think about this or have the office think about it, or Mike, who keep the utilities in their names, and we send the electric bill to the landlord, and they somehow work it into their rent or whatever. Because then when they want to throw the tenant out, they exercise self-help repossession and call the city and ask the city to turn off the utilities to that building, and that's how they get the person to leave. Now, we don't cooperate with them on that, but if you've got a landlord or an owner who owns the apartment building, let's say, and he's one of these owners where the owner pays the utilities, how are you gonna know when people are
Right.
moving in and out?
Yeah.
So, good question.
I didn't know how many we had like that in Norman. I know the Sons apartment utilities are included in the rent.
There's Carol and I were talking about it, and she identified a handful.
And they're probably the worst ones. So,
So originally, you wouldn't inspect any until, or if this goes into effect, he would go and inspect all of them? He doesn't do it until a renter leaves?
Right.
well,
Period.
technically not until a new renter moves
A
in.
new, yeah, a new renter moves in.
But anything more, it would probably be a massive work increase for him that he could probably not handle.
Yeah.
No,
Just
I
kinda
was just
start the
asking,
clock.
I just,
I can also see situations too where there may be some landlords who maybe aren't aware of this if it gets, approved. That they'll have a new tenant come up to the window, say, I need to get the utilities transferred in my name, and 6 months from now, and we can say, well, do you have your occupancy permit? No, of course not. So there's gonna have to be some leeway initially until all landlords are aware.
well, I think the city ought to make them aware of the ordinance. The city could send a copy of the ordinance to all of the landlords, and then they know at that point, at the beginning.
But I mean, do we have a list of known landlords?
Oh, I'm sure.
Carol can probably
Get close to it.
identify them,
If someone rented out their home, we may not, I don't know.
No, yeah, you're right, we may not know everyone.
If someone rented out their home and they did one of these landlord pays utilities deals, it would be, how would we know?
Right.
I'm not sure.
Yeah.
But if you rented out your house to someone, why would you pay the utility?
So you wouldn't have to get an occupancy permit,
Oh, well,
because I know there's things wrong with it, and I don't wanna pay to fix them, and I wanna dodge the city.
It's a 150-year-old home, I know there's things and, yeah. But it's, the spirit of it is good for the citizens.
Right.
Well, we've got a good start anyway, so. Okay. Is there any other old business? If no old business, anybody have any new business?
I do have a question. Is there any reason the city is not investing more money in CDs? We have $15 million from the report I have in my packet here. Every month, $15 million. And I think we have like 400 and some invested in CDs. Is there any reason why, and I've talked to you before, I've talked to Tammy quite a few times.
Tammy went to the banks last week, and she has she's pulling together a report. So yeah, we did that last week. I don't have the number off the top of my head, but it's a few million.
Okay,
Some-
'cause
some
years
thing.
ago, we would invest 30 days, 20 days, 60 days, 120 days, 3 months, whatever we could get, whatever the interest, it was a lot more than.
Yeah, we went with,
1%.
they were running some special rates on 6-month CDs, one of the banks was. Tammy's got all the details.
Or stagger them.
And I'm
Do
That's
some
right.
for 6 months, some for 3, some
Right,
for
and
30
that's
days,
what we did. yeah.
and just keep rolling.
But anything we had left in the bank, I would invest that for 30 days, so it came due the next time we had to pay bills. We knew how much our payroll was gonna be and all that other stuff, so we set that aside. But we would always, and it was more than the 1% at that time that we got, so.
Do our annual auditors review that? Like, to make sure the city has sufficient liquidity?
Oh, yeah, that's covered.
Okay, any other new business? If not, we'll move on to ordinances.
All right, the first on your agenda is Bill number 2024-51, an ordinance to approve a support and maintenance agreement by and between the city of Herman, Missouri and Electric Control Company for the city's SCADA control system.
Any discussion? If not, we'll-
So whose use is this?
This is for the SCADA, the emergency alarms on the water and wastewater right now. We've had the same company for a number of years, and this is the annual renewal.
And I thought he was going to add some other facilities to it? Was he not?
Not yet, no.
So right now, this only covers the electric, the substations?
No, I believe this is water and wastewater.
Strictly water and wastewater?
Have all the SCADA systems been updated to the new cellular? Like, we're not on landlines anymore, correct?
I think you're thinking of the gas correctors.
That's what I'm thinking of.
Any other questions?
Is there a list here where these are located? Which I couldn't find, but maybe I missed it.
No, I don't think there is. Obviously, the SCADA equipment is over in the dispatch center, and some of it is in our computer room up front as well. And somebody comes out and makes inspections, and this gives us all the tech support we need and repairs as
So
well.
they cover just the wastewater, you said water and wastewater?
I said water and wastewater.
So they cover all the wells or just?
Yes.
They're in the well houses and they're on the lift stations and some
all
of the panels.
stations, every lift or-
I don't know that
Because he
everyone
said-
has an alarm on it, but
They didn't.
I
Okay.
don't know that everyone has it, but a lot of the bigger lift stations we see in town have these alarms.
Anything else? If not, do I have a motion to approve, please?
I'll move.
Motion made, do I have a second?
I will second it.
All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Any opposed? So carried. We need to read that twice.
If you're so inclined.
All right. For second reading, bill number 2024-51, an ordinance to approve a support and maintenance agreement by and between the city of Herman, Missouri and Electric Controls Company for the city's SCADA control system.
Do I have a motion to approve second reading?
I'll move bill number 2024-51, second read.
Motion has been made. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion made and second. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Any opposed? So carried. The next ordinance, we're gonna let the chief come up and talk about that real quick.
This is, I was asked to be on the police Murma board last year by Patrick Bonnet, Murma. There's 6 other chiefs with agencies that are on it, and kind of go over different policies and things with Murma and for police that they feel we need to kind of update and go over. I think the last time they did that was over 4 years ago, so a lot of things have happened in policing and incidents and laws that have been changed that we felt we needed to look at to better our policies for police officers. So over the course of the year, we've been working on it and kind of looked at certain topics such as excited delirium. Like I said, none of us are trained doctors, so they kind of took that out. Duty to intercede and report, making it more for officers if they see an officer being aggressive or using use of force when not necessary, not interceding or stopping it, and that officer could be, more liable for not stopping that before it escalated. Use of tasers and ECD devices, kind of going away from that and going with more of the International Association Chiefs of police, their model is better suited for practice as different types of tasers are now on the market. Shooting at or moving from vehicles. Again, incidents in the country have happened where officers put themselves at risk by getting in front of a police car or in front of a car and then saying it's a deadly weapon and shoot into the car and kill the driver because you put yourself in that situation which wasn't necessary. So now kind of put that into a policy where or put yourself in positions where you have no choice but to use deadly force because you stood in front of a car for no reason. Neck restraints, again, certain things have happened in this country where officers are using certain neck restraints when they're not trained to or know how to properly use those in life or death situations, and things have happened where people have been killed because of that. And again, police chases, the governor signed into law a new existing recently regarding police chases, creating more harsh penalties for certain types of chases. So the committee unanimously approved the addition to the policy that reads, when it's initiate a pursuit only when it's reasonable to believe that fleeing suspect has committed or attempted to commit a violent felony. If we allow them to continue to flee, they're more of a danger, immediate danger to human life. So outside of that, then, which we don't do anyway in Herman for speeding or silly stuff, we don't pursue just because of the risk factors and dangers to the community that we just chase every car. So they make it more of a policy that unless it's a danger to the community or we have to continue, then we're not pursuing just for that factor for insurance and risking someone else's life or an officer. Unfortunately, just like recently there at the Lake of Ozarks, chasing a guy for speeding and officer was killed unfortunately just for speeding. Lost control and was killed unfortunately. So just certain things like that Murma, every few years they sit down and look at certain policies and kind of make changes that make sure officers are doing certain things and not, and with different law changes and incidents across the country that happen that are on the news that we got to really look at and say, we need to make some changes and stop doing certain things or start doing things that benefit us or protect the city and the officer and the citizens. So that's why they've done this. And I have until, all the agencies in Murma have until the end of January of next year to implement these and make changes in the current ones to get them up to date and stuff. So that'll be done before that. Those changes will be.
Anybody have any questions? Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
If, we'll proceed then.
Right. So this would be a first reading for an ordinance, bill number 2024-52, an ordinance to approve and implement the Missouri Intergovernmental Risk Management Association's Model Police Department policy.
Do I have a motion to approve?
I move to approve bill number 2024-52, first read.
Motion's made, so do I have a second?
Second.
Motion made, second, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
Any opposed? So carried. We'll move on to resolution.
Okay, the resolution on for this evening, number 1344, a resolution authorizing the issuance of festival space permits for October.
Any questions? If not, do I have a motion to approve resolution number 1345?
Move to approve resolution 1345.
Motion's made, do I have a second?
Second.
Motion made, second, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
Any opposed? So carried. We will move on to motions. I have a motion to approve the minutes from our last meeting.
Make a motion to approve the minutes from September 23rd, 2024 meeting.
Motion has been made, do I have a second?
Second.
Motion made, second, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
Any opposed? So carried. I need a motion to pay the bills.
Move, we pay the bills with the correction of, you stated earlier with Mr. Hogbauer.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's reflected on the latest sheet there.
Right. We have a motion to approve the bills. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion made and second. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Any opposed? So carried. Vehicle for hire license for Brenda Bushman.
What did, I read that, but I forget, what business name does she go underneath?
I think she's an individual that just uses, she was doing just
One of the
Uber,
Lyft driver type thing?
Lyft.
Lyft or Uber?
So I don't think she has a LLC or business name that I've been made aware of.
But I seen one, I don't know if it's got a license, Bentley's, Uber.
Yeah, the blue car.
The
Blue
blue-
and black. I've seen that one too.
Any other license besides just a plain old license for sharing passengers?
She will, so a normal vehicle for hire like this that wouldn't apply to like a normal Uber or Lyft unless she starts giving out her number and advertising, which is what she's planning to do, I believe, from my conversation with her, and that's why she's going through this. So if they're just doing Uber and Lyft, they don't fall under a vehicle for hire because of some.
Missouri state law does almost
Okay.
license them, yeah.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna ask, is like if these come up, I think they have to have a Class E license or something, a special license to be an Uber
I don't know, I
Do we
don't know their
qualify?
restrictions on the licenses.
before we issue the license. Do we make sure they have all the state requirements to be?
I don't know what Lyft and that requires of them.
Well, I think Jim was talking about the state law, weren't you?
Yeah, this,
State requirements.
we probably shouldn't issue a city license if they don't have all the state qualifications.
Sure,
By
yeah, I would have to
them.
look, I don't have her
Because I
details.
was reading up, I think for an Uber, you need a Class E or something, and like trolleys need like a Class B.
Mhm.
Just curious. Because you didn't put a business name on there, I went, oh, which one that is? Thank you, sir.
She didn't provide a business name, I don't believe she has one.
Good point, though. If we are gonna issue vehicle for hire licenses, it should probably be on the application.
So you want to table her then until you get that information?
I would feel more comfortable doing so.
What information are you looking for specifically?
Well, yes.
Because she provided a driver's license, I just don't have it in the packet.
Okay.
I don't know what the state requirement of that is, and that is the same thing that Lyft and Uber would ask for, which she's already in compliance with. But,
She's just provided everything on the checklist that we've required of everyone that
Right.
we've issued before, and this checklist comes right out of our code.
yeah,
And I do think I saw her driving already last weekend, which she would have been fine to do.
If she's
Sounds like, as
functioning
long as she's
as
not
one of those
advertising.
apps.
Yeah.
Yeah, you guys will remember, it was kind of a big conversation among cities when the state did that 2 or 3 years ago. They took away the ability of the cities to license Ubers and Lyfts.
Right, right.
And those are to monitor them at all. And so, that's why it gets a little confusing when some people, it's hard to catch them because sometimes they'll do both. They'll operate through the app and then they'll also do like a side thing of giving direct numbers and taking
Hey, what
point-to-point
time do you
calls and
guys
stuff.
want to be picked up? Just call me at this number.
Yes,
or
yeah, and then they're
whatever.
circumventing the app, and then that's when we're supposed to be licensing
I guess
them.
the question is to him, is the liability of approving this, I mean,
You need to approve it.
hmm?
You need to approve it
Okay.
if they've complied with everything on our list and we.
right.
But I'm saying that for the future, we may want to take a look at our vehicle for hire license application, that it does have the space to put on there.
That's fine.
But as far as this vehicle for hire license application, I move to approve.
I have a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
Motion made, second, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
Any opposed? So carried. Approved low bids from ARB Signs for t-shirts and more for Little League t-shirts and Little League photos for Little League photos.
Move to approve?
Motion's been made, do I have a second?
Second?
Motion's made and second, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
Any opposed? So carried. Approve a utility easement from Brian and Lisa Jett at 808 Beatty. This is just basically so they can put a pole in, if I understand it right?
And to answer Corey's question from earlier, the initial draft was 10 feet, this one's 15. Jesse sent an email October 9 saying, he says, I think we can get by with a 10-foot easement with 5 feet on the north side for installation and maintenance, so that's where the 15 came from.
So this document says 15, so
Correct.
that's what we're approving is the 15, correct? Okay. As per,
And this is just putting one of our electric poles to furnish electric to,
I believe a shed or a garage of some sort.
Our electric will be moved, I think, but it's in order to get around what our garage is, where our garage is going to be, because the electrical line now like hangs down really low, and it would be in the way of our garage that we're trying to put in, so.
Just to relocate, basically.
Correct.
That's what you're saying.
From the alley, it will go to the southwest corner of our property and then to our house.
So it's existing service, just reload.
Correct.
Any other discussion? If not, do I have a motion to approve?
I'll move to approve.
Motion made, do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Ratify festival event application for the Herman Christian Fellowship Prayer Free Water Crosses Fellowship, 100 West First Street, October 5th, 11th, 12th, 18th, 19th, 25th, 26th, 2024. Have a motion to approve that?
Motion to approve.
Motion made, do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Any opposed? So carried. Ratify festival event application for the White House Hotel Courtyard Vending with Public House Brewing Company, 232 Wharf Street, October 4, 5, 11, 12, 18, 19, 25, and 26, 2024. Do I have a motion to approve that?
I'll move to approve White House.
Motion is made, do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Any opposed? So carried. Ratify caterers permit Public House Brewing Company Courtyard Vending, 232 Wharf Street, for October 4, 5, 11, 12, 18, 19, 25, and 26, 2024. Motion to approve that.
So move.
Motion is made, do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Any opposed? So carried. Ratify caterers permit Stonehill Winery Showboat Theater Vending, 112 East 4th Street, October 6, 2024.
Motion to approve.
Motion's been made, do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Any opposed? So carried. We have no reports, do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
A motion to adjourn, do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Any opposed? So carried. We are adjourned. Thank you for being here and thank you for watching.